Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Sunday, and welcome back to our series on the Havamal, where we are looking at everything verse by verse. This week we are investigating verse 6, and we will be comparing and contrasting three different translations. So let's find out what these translations say. The first says, "Let no man glory in the greatness of his mind, but rather keep watch o'er his wits. Cautious and silent let him enter a dwelling. To the heedful seldom comes harm. For none can find a more faithful friend than the wealth of a mother wit." This one was by Olive Bray. Now for our next. "A man shall not boast of his keenness of mind, but keep it close in his breast. To the silent and wise does ill come seldom when he goes as a guest to a house, for a faster friend one never finds than wisdom tried and true," which is Bellow's translation. And now for our last. "No one should be arrogant about their intelligence, but instead watchful of mind. When a knowledgeable and silent person comes to a home, shame rarely befalls them. Because of that infallible companion, no better friend to have, a great hoard of common sense." Douglas Dutton. So I think this can be somewhat summed up by the expression, "Pride goeth before a fall." Vanity and pride are common character flaws, but it does seem that having a higher degree of intelligence does make a person more vulnerable to that failing. We forget that intelligence is having the capacity to absorb and use information, but that's not the same thing as wisdom. Nor is intelligence a guarantee of having a higher caliber of morality or indeed of etiquette and good manners. Intelligence is not the same thing as having a keen insight into the human condition, so it does have limitations. So if someone is bragging about their intelligence, it's a sign that they haven't recognized limitations of intelligence, what it can and cannot do, and they're therefore more likely to behave presumptuously and to refuse to acknowledge when they don't know something. This is a recipe for tyrannical behavior, as we have daily proof, and can point to a myriad of examples of public figures who are guilty of this. Another pitfall is not admitting when we're wrong, which can cause bigger problems. It also makes a person less respectable and lacking in good judgment. Arrogance is off-putting, and refusing to keep that tendency in check, it gives people a legitimate reason to dislike us. I realize that in this day of age of unconditional love and unconditional positive regard and all other forms of therapy doublespeak, I realize this is a very controversial thing to say and something that a lot of people may reject out of hands, but the reality is that our behavior can shape whether or not we are worthy of the esteem of others. I mean, look at it this way. Many people have had very bad experiences with those who are arrogant. They've been ill-treated. They've been dragged into obnoxious situations, and they found themselves having to clean up the messes when plans go south. And of course, the person who got them into that mess isn't going to lift a finger to help them. Arrogance also prevents self-reflection, and without acknowledging mistakes, we can't hope to correct them, and then we will be prone to repeating those same mistakes over and over again, and that doesn't make anybody any friends. And eventually, relationships do break down completely. The arrogant person becomes isolated, probably still refusing to see why, and then bitterness sets in, and then you have a whole host of other problems. So now let's talk about the virtue of common sense and how it relates to this idea of having a watchful mind. And of course, we have to think about what does it mean to have a watchful mind. The sense I got from this line is that to be watchful is to be actively and intentionally observing what's going on and attempting to figure out why things are transpiring the way that they are, why things work the way that they do. Whereas a passive mind is not pursuing information. Occasionally, a passive mind might observe something almost through a process of osmosis, but the passive mind is not trying to fit that information into the larger puzzle or to discern the meaning of it. I think this could also refer to being watchful of ourselves, our strengths and our weaknesses, our successes and failures, and being honest with ourselves about who we really are and how we actually act. And I think that a little modesty can go a long way. The verse states that the person who is both knowledgeable and silent, or in other words, doesn't make a big to-do about their intellect, doesn't tend to experience harm, ill, or shame at the same rate as others who have not learned that lesson. I'm interpreting this as meaning that such a person tends not to be the architect of their difficulties in life, and they're not sowing the seeds of their own shame. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that someone who keeps their vanity under control is never going to experience problems. That isn't real life. We're all going to experience challenges and difficulties. But it does reduce the likelihood that their problems will be self-created and self-inflicted. They're not self-sabotaging, at least not as a general rule. Of course, there are benefits to being practical and reasonable, and realizing that intelligence is best used as a tool. It's a means for us to accomplish our business in life. And when you think about it, intelligence, just having it, that's not a cause for admiration in and of itself. It's the way the intelligence is used that determines whether or not it raises our stock with our fellow man. But better than intelligence is wisdom. And wisdom is asking what is best as opposed to what's efficient. It isn't just about winning or being proven right, although those can be side effects of displaying wisdom. But wisdom concerns itself with a greater sense of propriety, the long-term good, what works in reality. And it has been said that reality is that which continues to exist regardless of our hopes or fears, and acknowledging what we know to be real is wisdom, and it is common sense. Common sense isn't fighting the natural laws of the universe, it's learning to operate within them, and acknowledging where humans are positioned on the greater totem pole, and that not everything is subject to our control or to our reinvention or our redefinition. So I think there's a lot contained within that little verse. And if you'd like to discuss it further, I hope you'll come see us at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There is a link to join in the description box below. And in the meantime, I hope you will subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.